All right. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're all having a fantastic start to the AM here. A couple things to go on about here this morning. Right, we got a lot of Fed speak this week. Post-Fed blackout period. We're trying to get, I think, one a day here at least, right? So we got Fed president, Chicago Fed president here at 11. Tuesday, right? Wednesday, we've got a few kind of big narratives, right? Tuesday, we've got two Fed speakers. Wednesday, we've got CPI. Thursday, we've got more Fed speakers and PPI. And then Friday, right? Poor James Bullard getting stuck outside of market hours at 7:45 doing speeches. But should be a relatively, hopefully, easier week than what we had last week. Right? It's not to complain. We traded pretty well last week. Two trades, 2 wins. I won't complain about that. But again, right, it might be a little bit of a news narrative that we have to focus on here just a little bit this morning. And so I want to be just a tad cautious, right, as we wait for that sort of resolution to kind of come together. Good morning, Jason. Good morning, Jesus. Good morning, T. Crone. Hope you guys are all having a fantastic start to the week and had a great weekend. Welcome. If you guys are non-DTR members and joining here for DTR Monday, welcome as well. I just ask if you're going to use the chat, right? Please subscribe to the channel. It's the only way I can avoid the kind of spam bots getting involved. And so, yeah, we just ask that you subscribe if you want to use the chat. Otherwise, hope you all have a fantastic day. Good morning, Fernando. Hope you're doing well as well. But yeah, let's kind of get after it here a little bit here this morning, right? Actually, before we go over that, I've got a little, I mentioned this last week. I'm going to try to start coding up some of my signals and some of my strategies and starting to do that a little bit here. So if you see inside this, on my chart or whatever, I got this thing called DTR signals. What that is that's going to be it's not perfect yet, but it's starting to get to a point where I'm pretty happy with it. But it's going to be a coded up version of an MA cross signal and a BB reversal signal. Hey, good morning, Daniel. Welcome. Great to see you. Thanks for joining. But yeah, we got a few of our trading signals here coded up. Now, it's not going to be like, it's not perfect yet, so I still need to do a little bit of refining here. And it's going to take a little bit of basically human kind of confirmation, right? But this should hopefully give us alerts when signals trigger. And yeah, hopefully we can get a few kind of test cases here this week to kind of practice out some of these sort of scenarios. But yeah, it's that BB reversal strategy that we've been talking about here early last week, and then like that MA cross strategy. And I'm going to keep kind of focusing on that and improving that code a little bit so that it's a little bit more reliable. As it stands, you can see a little bit here. I'm just going to get rid of these Bollinger Bands. The green here is like the Bollinger Band reversal. The blue is the MA cross. Now, it's not perfect, like I said, right? We still need to do a little bit of refining. Every time I seem to try to do that, I break it. So it's like 65% where it needs to be at the moment. So just requires a little bit of human, yeah, basically sanity checking before it's ready. But we'll go over that stuff as it kind of comes together. I'll try to make these a little bit brighter so we can actually see them. And then hopefully, as these alerts go off, we should get basically alerts pop up on the screen. So hopefully we'll make that easier for us to never miss a setup across timeframes. But again, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So that being said, right, let's start mapping things out here a little bit. I know it was a little bit of a preamble here this morning. And yeah, let's kind of get after it here and have ourselves a fantastic day. So SPY, right, we're going to call this normal body bullish plus decreasing but outlier vol. And then gap up. So 2 out of 3 here to the upside, right? Certainly more bullish pressure here than bearish pressure. And we'll be looking for a continuation of that narrative. Now, starting point, right, we're at 413.14 here pre-market. So realistically, probably need to get up and over sort of that 414 shelf. And then looks like above that area, we don't have anything too crazy. So I don't mind that too much here. 414. Right, so we'll be looking for a move up and over inside or above that sort of 414 box, right? Looking for a high vol breakout. Or theoretically, right, we can look for like a weak bearish pullback inside Friday's range and then up towards sort of that 414, right? Or weak pullback right? And then set that 414 barrier. That's the starting point. So we'll look there and just sandy check some of these levels, right? Then that next mark, okay, we're going to round that up, right? 415, fine. Then we go like 416, fine. And then we know we got up towards sort of that 418 barrier. So that's mapped out fine. We can kind of fill this in probably towards that 420. So that's $5 up. And then up and over that zone, I'd probably think we can maybe test that trend line there at that sort of 425 zone. So if I just fill this in $1 along the way, feels like it's enough space. I don't have to be too aggressive here chasing this higher. I don't think right now that the indexes are necessarily going to be the easiest thing for us to trade in the short term. The leading names, I think, are going to be a little bit nicer because it seems like it's 5 or 6 names that kind of move all day, and then the indexes kind of grind. So if I can catch those, 1 or 2 of those strong names, that's going to be where I want to maybe put more of my energy and more of my focus instead of being hyper aggressive chasing on the index level. I'm more looking for indexes to kind of cooperate and tell me basically the same narrative, right? And just use that as kind of like a leading indicator versus wanting to be hyper aggressive, forcing a decision here to the upside. VIX still pretty chill here, 17 spot 5.7 this morning. So no real desire for me to want to be bearish as long as that's the case. So I'm really more bullish or bust here and be looking for weak bears to then go versus looking for bearish breakdowns or bearish reversals. Just don't really feel like that's the play here in the short term. Okay, QQQ, slightly of a stronger volume profile, right? Increasing volume compared to the SPY, but we're getting a little bit of a gap down. So again, right, we're still getting a 2 out of 3 here. But certainly seems like it wants to give me that breakout up and over above sort of, we'll call it that like 324 barrier. So we'll call this normal body bullish again, fine. Plus increasing vol plus gap down. So 2 out of 3 here to the upside again, right? Same thing like we just talked about on the old spider. This seems like it's a spot where we can either look for, breakout up and over through that sort of 324 shelf, or we're looking for a weak pullback, right? High vol breakout or a weak pullback. Hey, good morning, Jay. High vol breakout or weak pullback inside yesterday's zone. That's Friday's zone, right? Hey, good morning, Keith. So talk about that 324 barrier, right? That's going to be the starting point here for any breakout. I don't see anything really or any indication for me to change anything here. And then we're just looking to our left here, right? So we're kind of starting to look at like August areas for our perceived support and resistance zones. So we've got this mapped out towards 330, right? Kind of $1 along the way. That seems fine to me. And then we can kind of fill this out. I would say that next point of contact up towards sort of that 334 zone. So that'd be $10, map out another $1 along the way there. And certainly seems like it's interesting. Again, same thing like the index or like SPY, sorry. I'm not going to be super interested in chasing this higher. I don't think we're going to have easier setups on some of our leading names. I'm going to be more interested in focusing on those versus wanting to chase this very aggressively. Basically just been a long-term consolidation here. So again, right, want to more rely on the leading names versus assuming that I'm going to get a huge kind of breakout here. But if I can get a nice look, okay, obviously if this kind of filters out and becomes the strongest volume standard and becomes the strongest candlestick and it gives me the weakest pullback, obviously there's going to be, I'd be more willing to trade it then. But based on the information I have right now, I'm going to be more focusing on the leading names versus the indexes here this morning. And then again, right, VIX sub 20. So I'm not super interested in being bearish. I think that's just a little bit of a suicide mission. And my bias, right, when markets are kind of slow and boring is to fade. And fading a boring market doesn't really pay. So I'm just kind of putting that rule in place, right, to basically protect myself from the greediest version of myself, right? Apple here, really nice move, breaking out above that, say 171 barrier there on Friday. So big earnings pop kind of continues, right? And now we're getting, increasing outlier volume, strong candle and a little bit of a gap down. So we'll be looking for either dip buys inside yesterday's range, right? Or a high vol breakout, probably above that 170, 425 area for a move up towards maybe towards that 180 zone. But I love the volume here, right? Much stronger volume than what we saw on QQQ, right? Well above outlier there on Apple. Same thing, right, compared to SPY. So I would say maybe we're seeing relative strength here, or it's, maybe a bit more of a convincing narrative to suggest that, hey, bulls are actually going to step in and defend inside this zone. So it could be a nice little BB bounce spot right? As long as we see a nice sort of defense inside that area. So we're going to call that normal body bullish plus increasing outlier vol, and then a little gap down here this morning, right? So again, 2 out of 3 to the upside. We've got a strong daily candle, we got a strong volume profile, and I'm just looking for today's price action to kind of sync up and be a little bit of a stronger narrative. What we're looking for here, right? We said 174.25. Right, that seems to be the high that we need to kind of break out up and over from. And we'll double check these levels here in a second. And then if we don't get that high vol break and hold, right, we're looking for a BB bounce inside Friday's zone, or high vol break and hold over, right? And then we're looking 174.25, yada, yada, yada. And then we're looking to our left here, right, to make sure these levels make sense. We have this mapped out towards that 176, fine. And then above that 176, we're kind of looking towards that sort of 180 barrier, and that's mapped out as well. Thinking that this thing's going to move 8% towards that 180 is probably pretty aggressive, so I'm not going to change or map out more levels than that. If I can't get that look kind of within the sort of first 3, then I'm probably not going to be chasing this, or I'll be looking for something that's maybe a little bit less extended. But really nice look here on this Apple if I can get that pop. So hopefully we can get a little bit of follow through here and see that kind of volume defense sustain. And then again, right, same thing like we talked about across the board, big sub 20, huge volume standard. It's going to be really hard for me to trust that bears are reclaiming control here. So if that, if we do get really bearish price action, then I'm going to be more waiting for bears to prove and then looking for trend continuation here tomorrow. Not going to be looking to really front run that bearish trend this morning. Okay. Tesla, right, kind of looks like it's giving me that consolidation breakout here a little bit, but not on huge volume. So I'd like to see a little bit bigger volume step in, right, compared to all the volume standards that we've looked at, right, on say QQQ, even SPY. Tesla's well below sort of that white line, or well below what is kind of perceived as the 20 period average. So hard for me to judge this breakout or call this breakout super strong until I see kind of outlier strength step in and defend this area. Now, this gap up, $3 gap up, right, definitely looks relatively interesting. First name that we've looked at here this morning that actually does have a gap up. And so I think maybe there's a little bit of a narrative here where this would want to gap fill and then go, right, kind of retouch that sort of 171.50, whatever that sort of target is, and then kind of go higher. So this seems like it could be a good candidate for a possible BB reversal here again, right, or BB bounce off of that sort of lower range and then go. But the volume standard here isn't necessarily telling me that bulls are as strong as they are on, say, Apple. So I want to see that strength step in before I'm hyper aggressive here, right? So what we're talking about on Fridays, we wanted a consolidation breakout. As long as this volume is still kind of less than kind of the volume inside this range, right, in general, it's hard for me to say that I've actually gotten a breakout from consolidation. So I need to see more evidence here before I'm willing to be very aggressive, but certainly seems like this is a good start. On a technical level, this is a 3 for 3, right? Strong daily candle, increasing volume profile, so stronger volume than what we saw on Thursday, for example. And then we're just looking for continuation narrative here to kind of push this thing higher. Hey, good morning, Jared. So need to see volume step in, right? That's kind of the missing ingredient here. And I want to see that conviction step in, a little bit of joy step in. And if I can, awesome, we're going to have a little bit of fun. If I can't, no worries, not going to force a decision if it isn't there. So 3 for 3 here, right? Kind of looks like a bit of a breakout, right? Plus normal body bullish, plus increasing but not outlier, and then gap up. So 3 for 3 to the upside, right? So candle, volume, gap up, all telling me that same story here this morning. So definitely more bullish than bearish, right? But I want to see enthusiasm step in and really basically defend this breakout, right? So want to see outlier vol on any breakout. Right? And then we're at 173.50 here this morning. So let's check out that 174 barrier. That looks okay. What I will say about Tesla, which is definitely, hey, good morning, Jonathan. What I do like about this Tesla is we're kind of gapping up into an area where we've seen a lot of kind of bulls step in and defend before, right? even just if we're looking kind of zooming out here just a little bit, this white line, we've seen more price action kind of bounce, give or take, off of this area than flush through. So now we can maybe find support. We've seen bulls step in and defend here before. So can we now see bulls step in and defend with some conviction if we're going to get some follow through? That's kind of what I'm cheering for here this morning. If I can get that look, awesome. If I can't, well, I'm not going to force that decision or certainly look to overtrade inside this play. And then, like I said, want to see an outlier vol on any breakout or gap fill lower, then bounce, right? Bounce higher. So might just have to catch its breath here, fill that gap, and then go. So, certainly could be in play. My bias would be see it just kind of run right away, right? The earlier strength steps in, the stronger the setup is going to be, and the better indication of that volume stepping in, right? I'm expecting volume to be more present, kind of start of the day versus middle of the day. So, it's easier for my thesis to kind of come together if that breakout happens almost like right at this opening bell, right? And then above that 174, okay, we're going to go towards that 175. We got space up towards that 180 pretty comfortably with just kind of a few little minimal wicks along the way. And then kind of space towards sort of like that 183, 184 area. So I can map that out, $10 along the way, or $10 up. We'll go like 174, 175, just fill it in, buck along the way, right? I don't need to be hyper aggressive here. And especially if I believe that price action behaves like a zone, not necessarily a specific level. I've got plenty of room higher here if I can get some follow through. So, towards that 184 mark, I think that's plenty of space. We can go at 185, and I don't need to be hyper aggressive here, but certainly seems like there's at least enough momentum where I could get a little bit of follow through, and I'd be looking for a bit of joy here to the upside. So let's see if we can get that nice price action here this morning to kind of confirm this strength, and then hopefully we can get some nice follow through on this 3 for 3. And then again on these 3 for 3s, right? That's telling me that bulls are fully in control here, so no real bearish bias this morning. So this is going to be an NA to the downside versus anything else. And again, right, I'm really not interested in being short as long as that VIX is sub 20. I just don't think I'm going to have enough volatility to justify those plays. So Microsoft here, right, a little bit of a bull flag breakout on volume. Compared to Tesla, right, we're actually making higher highs on an outlier volume standard, right? Tesla not quite doing that. So maybe seeing a little bit more relative strength, right, from Microsoft here this AM. Not quite a 3 for 3, but we're kind of like retesting that upper trend line. So maybe it wants to bounce off that area and then break out up and over. Sorry, my dog's doing some funny things here in the background. So we can get like a little move above that 312 on some volume. Certainly seems like there's going to be quite a room higher towards at least that 316. And then we have kind of like that 325 shelf, which is sort of that, early January highs. So I certainly think that there could be a little bit of enthusiasm here on this bull flag, albeit it's maybe a little bit extended as it's been basically just a straight line up since January, right? So I want to be a little bit patient here, make sure that I'm not getting kind of tricked and trapped inside a move, but enough bullish momentum here to suggest that, hey, I can get some follow through. So let's see if I can basically get that narrative to sync up and be a little bit consistent, right? So we'll call it possible bull flag breakout, right? Plus normal body bullish, looks strong. Plus increasing, outlier vol, and then gap down. So 2 out of 3 here to the upside, right? So strong daily candle, strong volume profile. I'm just looking for today's price action to kind of sync up and break out. If that narrative can kind of come together, then awesome. I should have a little bit of joy, and I'm looking for a move above that 312 barrier. So that's gonna be the starting point for me here, right? And then we mentioned, right, that 316 shelf, which is kind of right there. And then we have that 325 barrier, which is sort of that, okay, we'll call it actually December highs or early January 2022 highs. So about, year and a half back. If we can get that kind of price action up and over, it certainly seems like there's a little bit of a narrative here. So we'll fill this in dollar along the way towards that 320 mark, and then we can be a little bit aggressive past that zone. So 318, 319, 320, and then 321, 322. Not 32, and then 32. Sweet, right? So plenty of space higher there, and it's 326, right? So plenty of space higher here. We can get a little bit of follow through, but I want to make sure that I'm not getting kind of tricked here, right? So maybe the play will be bounce off of that Bollinger Band and then go, sorry, not Bollinger Band, upper trend line and then go. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, see where that volume steps in off this opening bell. And if I can see a little bit of morning strength here, certainly looks like it could act as a nice leading name here to kind of bring markets higher with it. Okay. AMD, let's get rid of some of these drawings here. Inside bar, right, on outlier volume, but decreasing volume, so quite a bit less than what we saw there yesterday. Sorry, on Thursday. I can't unsee this channel, I don't think, right? So maybe it's kind of something like this. Right, maybe you have a little bit of a channel here that you need to get up and over. So if that's the case, right, we know the way we trade our kind of trend line breakouts is you go from one point of contact on the trend line to the next point of contact on this trend line. And then certainly seems like this kind of started, right, defending that $100 barrier. So maybe a few psych levels kind of along the way here that could act as a little bit of resistance. But inside bar here after, you know, an attempt from bears to break price action down post earnings. I'm not sure if this is going to be necessarily the cleanest trade here today. I think maybe we're going to have easier setups than this. But if I can get a breakout on volume above, give or take that 91.50 barrier, then certainly seems like there's space up towards like that $95 area and then got that kind of $100 zone. But this isn't going to be my favorite setup here this morning, right? So we're going to call it, needs to break out of this channel. Plus inside bar. Right, so formal consolidation, didn't make a higher high, didn't make a lower low, plus decreasing vol, plus gap down. So what we're being told here, right, is consolidation. Consolidation means no trending price action. So we need indication of trending price action before we're willing to kind of aggressively chase after this, right? The way that we get trending price action here is A, invalidate this upper trend line, right? And then B, see that increasing volume standard that's bigger than Friday's consolidation. So if we're saying Friday was consolidation, we need to see bigger volume than Friday to basically say that we're no longer stuck inside that range, right? So looking for a high vol breakout. Over the trend line. And then we'll call that 91.60. Right, and then that next point of contact here is like that 95 barrier. So we'll call that 93, 94, 95. Right, and then above that $95 mark, that next point of contact becomes kind of like that 98 barrier. So again, we can fill that in 96, 97, 98, 99. And then we have that sort of start of this resistance here, right, where we see a lot of those rejections. You know, kind of at that $100 mark, right, which is that kind of final point of contact or second from final point of contact here on this trend line. So I don't need to be too aggressive past that area. For myself, I think probably realistically, NVIDIA is going to be the nicer name to trade here because it doesn't have to deal with that sort of same psych level stickiness. But if AMD wants to give me that volume and it wants to kind of act as a bit of a laggard play and kind of catch up to the craziness that NVIDIA has shown, then this thing could move pretty quickly, pretty aggressively. But I just want to make sure that that volume steps in, and I know that, right? I know exactly what I'm waiting for here. I know what I need to see before I'm willing to trade this. So if I don't get that bigger volume standard than what I saw on Friday, I have no interest in trading this. It'll be more one to watch versus one to trade. And then, you know, realistically, okay, in theory, we can maybe play like that, you know, channel line rejection and, you know, back to the downside, things along those lines. But I'm not super interested in that as long as that VIX is still sub 20. So pretty much across the board, right? I don't really have any bearish narratives as long as that VIX is where it's at, just because that tends to me losing a lot of money. And so I'm just not really willing to fight the pattern inside my journal. So I'm just going to be pretty stubborn and be more of a bull here than a bear in the short term. Okay, NVIDIA looking pretty good here. Right, nice full body candle, increasing volume, not quite outlier, but not quite inside bar either. So we know what we need to see here again, right? We're looking for a breakout above 288. Yeah, we'll call it 288.30, I guess. What we'll be looking for though, right, is move towards, okay, we got 291, yada, yada, yada. I think this might be better as like a find support inside yesterday's range, right? Maybe off of that 280, maybe off of, that Wednesday high, right? Like that 284, find support, maybe off of VWAP, off of the mid BB band. It's going to be like, right? If I could find maybe support there, if I could find support maybe off that 280, 250 shelf, maybe if I could find support off of this cup and handle breakout, there could be a little bit of follow through there within that context then. But I'm not super motivated to be forcing a move higher here. I'm looking for a nice clean continuation breakout. I want to see if I can keep kind of getting this ascending wedge volume to kind of step back in. And then if I do, awesome, right? This thing moves like a psychopath, and we know we can get quite a bit of volume, sorry. But I'm not going to be, really trying to force a decision here that isn't in play. So my desire is to look for that strength, see how that strength can kind of identify itself here this morning. And then if it's actually showing me what I hope it's showing me, then let's have ourselves a lot of fun. But I'm not going to be forcing a decision that isn't there. I'm going to be looking for a high conviction look this morning without really forcing anything that's, just kind of slow, right? So high volume looks only, strong price action only, and then, maybe find support inside Friday's range. So we'll call this normal body bullish again, right? Plus increasing vol. I want to see more though, realistically, and then gap down. So 2 out of 3 here to the upside. We're looking for a continuation narrative here this morning. So high vol breakout or high vol bounce inside Friday's zone. And then we're looking for a breakout above 288.50. All right. And then we go 290, which is that sort of shelf. And then like 291. And then we're going looking to our left here, right? So at that point, it seems like that 300 area can come pretty quickly. I would say like 296 gets here pretty fast. And then we can get towards like that 305, 306 pretty quick. So I'll fill this in $2 along the way, 293, 295, 296, and then we'll just fill this in towards 300. So 298, well, 299, 300, just as it gets closer towards that psych level, maybe anticipate a little bit more stickiness. So if I can get there, certainly seems like there's a little bit of opportunity for this like ascending wedge breakout to kind of pop and run. So that's me what I'm cheering for here this morning. So let's see where that momentum steps in. Nvidia's been probably my favorite name to trade over the last little bit. So it's even kind of keep rewarding us and give us a little bit of follow through, but looking pretty sharp here off this opening bell. So let's see where that enthusiasm steps in. And if that volume steps in, it should continue to act a bit like a leading name. Obviously to the downside, we want to see that trend line get lost, but I'm not really in play here today. Pretty much across the board, right? No real bear case that I'm going to fall in love with here today. Okay. Meta, keeps wanting to fill this gap here, but like in the most annoying way possible, right? It's a bit of a doji on increasing outlier volume, tends to tell me that bears aren't particularly strong here, right? High volume indecision is the worst decision. So it kind of seems like this is we have a lot of evidence, right, of fake out lower and then kind of, go higher. So this again seems like maybe this will be our ultimate like BB reversal setup, right? Where we're opening up lower end of these Bollinger Bands, right, on all the time frames. The bands are going to be pretty fat, right? They're going to be pretty extended. So maybe we can get a nice little reversal play, especially if markets are really strong here this morning, right? If SPY is ripping, if QQQ is ripping, and Meta's kind of at these lows, we can hopefully hopefully assume that indexes are going to act as a bit of a magnet and pull price action higher here. So kind of like we saw there on Friday, right? Where we're showing us relative weakness off that open. Bears were not able to sustain control, and then price action pushed higher. Maybe we can basically replay this exact same narrative like we saw there on Friday. So consolidate off this bottom, maybe a little bit of a fake out lower, and then look to run price action higher. So I think there's a bit of a narrative here for a BB bounce because it keeps defending that little fake out into the gap and then go. So if I can get that story here across the board, I think that's where I can have a little bit of joy or a little bit of enthusiasm on this meta, and definitely what my bias would be here. And then I like this a lot because it means I'm not chasing a breakout here, right? So if the volume standard I'm seeing across the board isn't super convincing, maybe makes me think that breakouts aren't going to be as strong. So buying kind of a dip buy, right? Or buying kind of relative lows, maybe the risk reward ratio in the short term is a little bit easier for me to kind of take advantage of. So let's see if this can kind of come together here. We're going to call this high vol doji, right? And then we're going to call this a gap down. It's fine. I don't really care about that too much. What I want, basically my thesis here is fake out into the gap, then BB bounce, right? So that's pretty much the narrative here, right? High vol BB reversal, failed gap fill, 2 fills there. So not really, as long as indexes are strong. And then realistically, right, everyone and their grandmother's looking at this gap fill to the downside. So I'm not super optimistic that it's actually gonna give me that follow through, right? When things are like this obvious, it kind of makes me think that sometimes the market moves in the second most obvious way, or maybe even the third most obvious way. And the way that could be, right? It could kind of keep faking down lower, bouncing, gapping down, faking down lower, bouncing, gapping down, faking down lower, bouncing, until it finally hits that like 222 barrier. I would be surprised if we got a really big flush here today. Obviously doesn't mean it can't happen, but I'm just not going to be, again, right? I don't really have a bearish bias across the board. So I'm being pretty patient. I'd say skeptical of the bears. And we'll see if we can basically get that fake out narrative here like we've seen across the board in its last couple trading days. Okay. Amazon. There are these Bollinger Bands. So we'll call that second most bullish candle. Increasing, not quite outlier volume, and then gap down. A little bit of a gross flag here, right? Kind of a pretty steep trend line. So if I can get above that 106, that certainly seems like that's more of the narrative that I'm interested in on. Inside yesterday's range, probably not so much, or Friday's range, not so much, because we haven't really invalidated all the bearish volume that I kind of saw inside that same area. So as much as I've seen bulls defend here before, I've also got a little bit more evidence maybe of bears defending in this zone. So above, you know, that 106, it becomes a little bit more convincing that, hey, bulls have not really failed here as much, or we've got a little bit more of a bounce narrative. And so I'd be more interested in that sort of thesis. So I need to see a high vol breakout. And then we'll call this second most bullish, plus increasing vol, plus gap down. So 2 out of 3 here to the upside, but I'm just looking to see if I can get high vol breakout above that sort of 106 barrier, and that's really what I need to see. If I don't get that 106 breakout, I'm not going to be super interested in chasing this. But if I can get that nice look, I think this is probably a little bit of a pattern that I could take advantage of. Albeit I need to see that volume kind of get back above that outlier standard before I'm willing to be very aggressive. And then again, right to the downside, no real desire to be hyper aggressive here lower. So I'm going to be relatively patient and kind of bull case or bust here on this Monday morning. So let's see if we can get that nice kind of continuation narrative across the board. We have a few minutes here at the market open, guys. So if you have any chart requests, please pop them in the chat. I'd be happy to go over them here before market opens. But let's do a quick little rundown here if people kind of joined late, right? So SPY, we're looking for basically a consolidation breakout above this 414. Strong volume profile, but not strong enough. And so we're looking for basically big bulls to step in and kind of push that narrative. Indexes probably aren't my favorite look here this morning, and kind of want to look at them more as a leading name. We've basically been stuck inside a range for the last, I'll call it month and a half here now or so. And I want to see a narrative kind of step in besides the consolidation narrative, right? I can't force price action. I can't force an A+ narrative. So I just need to wait for things to be absolutely perfect. But if I can get that nice look, certainly seems like bulls are more in control than bears. So I'm looking for a formal breakout outside of this consolidation, and then hopefully a little bit of separation away from these zones. QQQ, right? Same thing. Maybe a little bit of a more pronounced breakout spot here. If we can get up and over that 324 barrier, certainly seems like there's maybe a little bit of enthusiasm there. We bounced off of that green box there on Friday. So now can I basically get a continuation narrative here on Monday? That's kind of what I'm cheering for here, right? Stronger volume profile, so I don't need to necessarily be as strict here. But again, right, not a full indication of bullish momentum. Maybe our move here is to buy kind of weak dip buys inside yesterday's range and then go. But again, right, looking for that formal breakout of consolidation and hoping that the leading names can kind of push price action higher, and then using almost the indexes as confirmation of that strength. Apple, right? incredible volume standard, really good momentum here this AM, and hoping that I can get a little bit of nice follow through here this morning. Strongest volume profile of all the names that we're seeing here so far, and maybe the most aggressive gap down of all the leading names that we look at. So this could be a spot where we look for that BB bounce, right? Maybe off of VWAP, maybe off of midline on the Bollinger Band, maybe off the lower BB band, right? Something along those lines. See if we can find that relative momentum for a push up towards those highs. And then if we can get a breakout above that 174.25, we want to make sure that we're seeing index cooperation and good volume stepping in and defending this narrative. The only missing piece here so far this morning is the price action, right? If price action's gapping down, it's not necessarily telling us that same high conviction narrative like we saw from bulls on Friday. Just want to make sure that, price action syncs up and becomes a little bit more consistent before I'm willing to be chasing this higher aggressively. Tesla, really nice gap up here on a kind of disappointing volume profile. Just want to make sure that that volume steps in and kind of defends this thesis. If we're calling this kind of price action from, we'll call it 420, nice, right, towards sort of last Friday as consolidation. This doesn't really feel like Friday's volume doesn't really feel like a consolidation breakout day. So I want to see bigger volume than what I saw on Friday, right? If Friday's consolidation, I need to see bigger than that to break out from consolidation. And that's kind of what I'm cheering for. So a 174 breakout on some volume certainly gives me a little bit of joy and a little bit of an opportunity for a narrative to take advantage of some trending price action. But I don't want to force this. Maybe the move here, right, is gap fill and then go. And if that's the case, right, again, we could possibly look for reversals off of that sort of 170 barrier, something along those lines. Well, let's see where that volume steps in. Let's see how this wants to behave. And if it does step in, this is going to have a lot of room higher towards sort of like that 185 mark. But let's just make sure that that enthusiasm is there, and then we can get some nice follow through. Microsoft, right? A little bit of a bull flag breakout, increasing outlier volume. Let's see if we can get a continuation of this trending price action. Looking for a move above that 312 on volume, and then we can get a little bit of joy. High vol breakout over 312, not 310, apologies. And then we can get that nice continuation narrative here, right? We got space up towards sort of those, January 2021, January 2022, sorry, December 2021, January 2022 zones. So, pretty nice little recovery here. My only concern, right, is that it's basically gone in a straight line since January, straight line higher since January 2023. Just want to make sure that we're not chasing something. So, make sure that enthusiasm is there, make sure that the indexes are actually cooperating, and then we can kind of look at this as a leading name and hope we can get some nice follow through. AMD, right, consolidation here, inside bar, decreasing volume, and then kind of a nothing gap at this point. We want to break out from this channel high, so above that 91.60 on some volume, and then we can get a little bit of follow through up towards sort of that $100 barrier. That psych level is going to be a big sticky point, so want to make sure that that volume steps in big. Same thing like we talked about on Tesla. If we are calling Friday's volume standard consolidation, and inside bar is telling us consolidation, then we need to see bigger volume than what we saw that made price action get stuck, right? If we're not getting bigger volume than what we saw there on Friday, hard for me to argue that I'm actually, giving me a stronger narrative than anything I saw there yesterday, right? Or anything I saw there on Friday. So volume is going to be the missing ingredient here. And if I can get that high vol look, happy to take advantage of it. If I can't, not going to force it. No reason to overtrade. Okay. Nvidia, right, looking for that ascending wedge breakout pattern, 288.50 here on volume. That's going to be the narrative we're looking for. Nvidia has been like one of my favorite names to trade over the last little bit. So let's see if we can get a nice continuation kind of pop towards that 300 zone, but need to make sure that we're getting that volume standard. Again, would like to see that, maybe increasing outlier, but the missing ingredient here is the price action. So we want to make sure that today's price action is strong, giving me conviction. That means strong candles, right? That means weak pullbacks. That means just making sure that we're getting a convincing story, right? No mixed narratives here. If I get a mixed narrative, probably gonna be one to avoid versus one to trade, but it feels like it's ready to kind of maybe give me that next leg higher and at least retest that psych level. And then Meta, right, looking like it wants to defend that gap again. The theme here we've seen recently is fake out and then bounce. Can we basically get that same narrative here this morning? That's kind of what I'm cheering for, kind of what I'm hoping for here this AM. So let's see if we can get that story. Otherwise, right, need to get up and over that 245 zone, not really in play here. And it kind of feels like it might want to fill this gap on the second most obvious way. Okay, Amazon, last but not least here, as market open, we need to get a breakout above that 106 on volume, right? Not going to be super enthusiastic until we get that breakout. Not the strongest volume profile there, although increasing. So again, if I could see outlier vol standard, That would give me a little bit of conviction, but let's see where momentum steps in first, and then we can kind of jump back in. So let's see where that kind of, enthusiasm shows up here this AM. Let's see where we basically see strong bulls, where we see strong bears. And then if we can get a little bit of joy, right, let's have some fun out there. And if we're not getting a good time, well, I'm not going to force a decision. I'm certainly not going to overtrade. I'm not going to put myself in situations where it's easy to be sort of unsuccessful. I want to control the variables I can control. And I've kind of defined what those kind of areas look like. No, I should not have gotten rid of the clock. There you go. Should be there. Sometimes it just needs to be refreshed. So yeah, let's see where that momentum steps in here, guys. Looking like it should be hopefully a nice, strong, fun day out there. But again, right, we're not going to force any decisions. Tesla looking like it wants to try to fill that gap off this opening bell, right? So maybe that's that narrative here like we talked about. But we're going to want to see a strong reversal off of those lows. Microsoft breaking down here a little bit as well. But again, right, we want to make sure that we're seeing strong bounce off of those lows. Meta as that BB play. This is probably going to be the most fascinating setup to watch off this opening bell. I think that's going to be probably where I need to focus on the most, right? So we'll see, right? Pretty big selling volume to start the morning off, but I'm not going to put too much stock into that here quite yet, right? We don't have enough fear or enough volatility in the markets for me to really trust bears. So bullish until proven otherwise, and I don't really have any of those bear cases across the board. Pretty much every story I saw or every name that I saw here today was a 2 out of 3 to the upside, right? Where I'm seeing more bullish price action than bearish price action. So I'm looking for a continuation of that narrative. If I don't get it, I'm not going to force it, right? I'm not going to overtrade. I'm not going to do anything stupid. I'm going to wait for things to be perfect. And if I don't get that look, no worries, right? I'm happy to kind of sit on my hands, right? A+ setups. Doesn't matter how long it takes in between. I'm just going to be really stubborn waiting for them to be perfect, right? If it's 3 hours in between A+ setups, if it's 3 days in between A+ setups, if it's 3 months in between A+ setups, doesn't matter, right? You're going to get periods where you get 10 in a week. You're going to get periods where you get 2 in a week. And so we have to kind of accept, hey, markets may be a little bit stuck, right? At least on the index level. So we need to be really patient, really cautious, and just not be in such a rush to piss away our money, right? And so focus on not losing big first, and then winning will be easy, right? It's easy to compound gains, easy to compound green days if our red days are few and far between, and if our red days are small as heck. Hey, good morning, Rusty. Hope you're doing well. So let's see where the momentum steps in here, guys, right? So far, so good. Pretty nice little opening bell from Apple, right? It's looking pretty good. Maybe this will give us that like BB look as well. Hey, good morning, Judson. So let's see, guys. Let's see where that momentum steps in, right? I'm really not in a rush to force any decisions, really not in a rush to overtrade, really going to wait for my perfect look before I'm willing to take advantage of anything. And let's just see where that enthusiasm steps in. Not great volume maybe on that meta. We'd want to see maybe just a little bit more there. Okay, right? Tesla maybe finding a little bit of support off of that gap fill, right? Pretty much filled it perfectly. Maybe there's like 30 cents left there. Well, hard to ignore this Apple volume, right? Apple stepping in with the biggest volume so far of all the names. So pretty strong price action to open off this market here. And let's just kind of keep watching, right? Not going to be forcing a decision off this opening 2 minutes, off this opening 5 minutes. Want to wait till I get some confirmations, right? Want to wait until I get some nice looks, and then we can take advantage of some stuff. Nvidia, right? We're not going to get that BB reversal set up off this opening bell. Want to see a green candle, then a red candle, so need to wait. Meta will potentially be giving me that look here. If I can get like a low vol pullback, if I can get an inside bar here, if I can get, yeah, basically a red candle with an arrow pointing up, right? Where the body of the candle is pointing up. That makes me a little bit more optimistic that I can get that follow through towards where I'm looking for. But let's just see, right? Let's be a little bit patient. Apple now maybe faded off just a little bit more than I would have expected. That doesn't feel super healthy there. So again, right, being a little bit cautious, being a little bit skeptical until I've got a really strong indication that either bulls or bears are in control, and everything else in between is just a little bit of a trap I'm just not interested in forcing, right? So slow and steady here is going to win that race for me. And I'm certainly not going to overtrade or force myself into a decision if something isn't absolutely perfect. But in the short term, right, let's see where that momentum steps in. Let's see where we can get a little bit of joy. And hopefully we can have a little bit of fun out here today. Obviously, guys, if you have any questions, pop them in the chat. We'll do my best to answer them as soon as I see them. If you have any chart requests, any names you're looking at, any setups you're thinking about, that's what I'm here for, right? So the more questions you can ask, the less I can repeat myself and the easier my life kind of becomes. So please, I'm happy to answer your questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question within this context. We're all here to learn. We're all here to improve. We're all here to make money. So please don't feel like, you can't ask questions or you can't get involved here. We all just want to get better. We're all on the same team. And then, it goes without saying, right? Just put ourselves in situations where we're thinking about risk management, right? Where we're controlling the variables we can't control. And then hopefully all things kind of go together really, really well. Hey, good morning, N. Hughes. Hope you're having a great day. Welcome to DTR Monday. Maybe a bit of a rejection from Apple, right? So I'm gonna be a little bit cautious here. Certainly don't want to be in a rush to force a decision, right? I want to wait for things to be absolutely perfect. Once things are strong, right, it'll be really obvious to us and it'll be easy to take advantage of those moves. But as long as we're dealing with compromises in between, right, then that's just going to cost us money, and I'm not really interested in doing that, right? So slow and steady, focus on the variables we can control, and then allow everything else to kind of fall into place. So I worked at a family office, AVB. If you look up a company called G Research, that's who I worked for. It was a systematic quant fund, and I was on their trade execution desk. For some, for sure. They did some pretty crazy stuff. Worked with some incredibly intelligent people. I don't know why they hired me. Okay, so Apple might be giving us that possible BB reversal setup here. Right, that's what that green line is telling me. I mentioned, I'm trying to code up some of my signals, right? That's what that green line is. Okay, it's got to close red though, right? Its candle's got to close red. So if it doesn't give me that look here on the 5, I'll wait to the 10. If I don't get on the 10, I'll wait for the 15, right? I'm happy to be patient. No, not at all, ABB. Like, there's obviously some principles, right, that are the same. But the way you trade at a fund, right, it's about avoiding slippage. It's about being anonymous. It's about kind of, hiding your trading to a certain extent. I don't trade 40 mil positions here, right? I'm trading, you know, 100K positions, $1 million a position, something like that. And so it's a totally different game. But there's a lot of the same principles, right? So, you know, I got taught how to trade with candlesticks and volume, how to, you know, interpret that kind of stuff. And so that's what I include in my trading. Right? And when you do trade execution for a hedge fund, you're not doing anything discretionary, right? You're trading someone else's ideas, someone else's thesis, right? I'm just a trigger man. So I was being told, okay, your job is to buy Apple at 135 a share, and you got to buy a 40 mil worth of Apple. So how do I do that, right? Well, I hide among volume. I do X, Y, Z. I stay within certain structures, and I had rules I had to kind of stay within. But there was nothing there that I was doing that was actually discretionary, right? No one that's given some 25-year-old kid or 20-year-old kid that kind of cash to work with, right? It's bad risk reward from their end. So trying to see maybe a little bit of these sell-offs, right? See if we can see some weak bears to start the day off. I wouldn't say this is there's gonna be too much volume here on Meta, so we'll be pushing this to the longer time frame here. Nvidia looks potentially interesting, but again, probably going to be too much volume on this sell-off, right? Right? You get a lot of misconceptions about what trading for a hedge fund is like. At least post 2008, there's very little discretionary element to it on the trader level, right? Because it's not worth the risk requirements. All right, so yeah, I got taught how to avoid slippage. I got taught how to, you know, analyze a market. I got taught all those things. But ultimately, right, I was judged, my performance was judged based on how the fund did and how much I was able to basically save the fund money on commissions, right, on entry timing. So the discretion that I had was, say we're trading an Apple setup, right? And I'm being told, okay, your job is to buy at 172.50. I would get rewarded, or I would be praised for my performance for every kind of dollar that I saved under that 172.50, right? So my discretion then was on my entry timing, but I still had to get my full position in, right? So, you know, it's all about managing that risk, was managing that exposure, you know, basically trying to avoid that slippage, and then hopefully trying to be able to time out the market so that I could make a little bit of cash in between. But it wasn't like I was making up trade ideas or chasing theses or anything along those lines. Their strategy, their techniques, their portfolio was too big for that to really be the case. Yeah, I mean, the pay was really good, and they took care of everything, right? So I didn't have to worry about my housing. I didn't have to worry about, like, they paid for a car, they paid for my housing, they paid for all my bills. So there was very little that I had to worry about on a day-to-day basis. Bonuses were awesome. You got bonuses deferred into the fund. So when the fund did well, you could get paid out really pretty significant bonuses come like April. You know, had like 300K bonus my first year working there. And like when I joined, I got a signing on bonus that paid off my entire student loans. So the money was awesome, right? But it definitely felt like I missed the golden age of trading while I was there. So pretty strong from Apple, kind of weird from everything else. Well, it's just a different game. It's a totally different game, ABB. Right? Retail traders, we can take advantage of patterns and liquidity that hedge funds can't take advantage of. That's our biggest advantage. We can get in and out of positions with exactly when we want without moving the markets. Big funds can't do that, and they would kill for that advantage. And yeah, being a kid, getting exposure to that world, learning about how things kind of move in that context was really eye-opening, and I learned a ton. And I'm very happy I did that as an experience. But yeah, it wasn't perfect, right? And it wasn't always easy, and it was a lot of politics and all that kind of stuff. Right, so too much volume on the sell-off, which is why there's no BB bounce here. Right, way too much volume. So let's see if any of these 10-minute signals want to give us a look here, but not getting an opportunity quite yet. I was pretty much green right away when I went back, or when I started trading for my own portfolio, sorry. But I did have a few like kind of stressful moments. So I don't know, like 6 months in, I had like a couple like pretty nasty drawdowns, and so I just had to change the way I traded pretty much. But yeah, I had a couple like minus 50K days, and so it was kind of a come to Jesus moment where I was either gonna take an institutional job or keep kind of trading my own capital, and I decided to figure out risk management to trade my own cash. The risk management side of things was the hardest thing to kind of grasp my head around, because I didn't have to worry about those details when I was working for the fund. I had someone else, right, tell me where my stop loss was. Someone else pull me off the desk if I was trading too aggressively. There were, 50 people for every trader that act as kind of support staff, right? And so I stopped kind of having those perks. And so that made it a lot more challenging, right, to kind of trade independently. So this meta looks a little bit interesting here. Yeah, really good risk reward. Right, where you're only risking like 50 cents. The index is looking, yeah, man, for sure. Like some like boar on the floor type stuff. Christmas party always got really out of hand. Well, it's just a question you have to ask yourself, right, Aimnesh? How much am I willing to lose, and how can I make sure that I never lose more than that, right? Good risk management is a proactive, not reactive process. So once I'm in a trade, once I'm down, you know, 40K or something like that, and I'm making a dumb decision, how can I prevent myself from making that decision in the first place? Well, it's okay, I need to size my position so that taking that kind of hit is impossible. I need to be walking away so that kind of hit is impossible. I need to be making more proactive decisions versus reactive decisions. Because once I'm in a trade, I stop thinking like a logical human being and I start to make mistakes, right? And those mistakes can compound and really kind of go against you if you're not going to be disciplined. But these like blanket questions, man, you got to be able to answer them yourself. You got to think about them yourself and try to be super selfish, right? About what's the best thing for my account at all times. Not what feels best, what's actually objectively best. And you're probably not making that analysis. You're not coming to that conclusion when you have a position on, right? When you got risk on. My only hesitation here with this meta is it's the only one that's kind of misbehaving, right? Or it's behaving a little bit differently than all the other indexes, which is why I'm not super aggressively trying to chase after this yet. Right? Maybe you just need to scale up your sizing slowly, right? It's not necessarily a huge jump. Maybe you need to trade that the way your current sizing for the next 3 months and just put up a little bit of cash into your portfolio, right? Kind of reinforce a few of those kind of winning habits. But you can't force that progression. You kind of just have to trade through it. And then probably need to start defining how much you expect you're going to lose before it happens. All right, so that each kind of hit isn't a surprise. Right? It's like you wouldn't accept a, like if your contractor is doing your bathroom or your kitchen in your house, you'd want to know how much you're going to be paying before you sign the contract, right? Kind of the same thing when you enter a trade. You want to know how much you're going to lose, how much you're going to make, what the, you know, yeah, what that, all those details are going to be before they happen, so that you're not surprised when the bill shows up. Because when you're trading and that bill is surprising, that becomes quite chaotic, right? So generally there's something in your trading that's giving you anxiety. So you need to define your rules a little bit better to answer that anxiety. Now, only you know what that is. Maybe that means you need to journal a bit more aggressively. Maybe that means you need to size your position smaller while you kind of figure out what that pain point is. Maybe it's something along those lines. That's where obsessing over the process, right, comes in. Where it's how can I make sure that the things that cost me money stop costing me money. and then designing rules and structures around those circumstances, around those structures, so that, yeah, hitting your max pain number, hitting that spot where you kind of start blacking out as a trader is impossible. That's really what your objective has to be. And there's nothing that I can really say or do once you're inside a trade that's going to make you feel better. So it's got to be proactive, not reactive. Okay, so far so good avoiding this meta. It's kind of a gross open here so far. I just wish that this opening volume was maybe a little bit bigger too. Right? If it was like bigger than volume I saw on Friday, easy for me to say that bulls are in control here, right? But with that decreasing volume standard, hard for me to say that bulls have reclaimed control. So easier for me to get spooked off of this, right? Still watching here, right? I wouldn't say anything looks great yet. So I'm remaining pretty patient. I don't see a A+ look at the moment, so I need to be relatively cautious and just not force a decision. Remember, guys, right? Profitable traders trade their process, not an outcome. I know that can be really frustrating sometimes, right? But we got to focus on controlling the variables we can't control. So if we're chasing ideas that are just like impulse decisions, right? And we make money on that trade. Okay, yeah, maybe we can make some money, maybe we can make some cash. But those impulse decisions, those impulse trades, those impulse entries, right? They only hurt you later on in your trading career. Once you reward an impulsive decision, right? You reward that with a P&L number or whatever it is. When things go against you, you're going to default, right, to trading impulsively because that's what you do when you're profitable. And so that's what compounds and leads to like that kind of like out of body experience that leads to that you making blackout decisions, to you doing things that you know you're not supposed to be doing. And it's about how can I basically not reward those dopamine structures before they happen, right? Again, let's talk about process, not outcome. That's why we focus on that so much, because that when the outcome goes against us, right, our process should default us back to being disciplined, right? Back to waiting for our A+, back to being, you know, X, Y, Z. And so we can't force those variables, right? And I know that's really frustrating sometimes, real frustrating, but what we got to do as profitable traders, can't be willing to compromise just for the sake of it. And if we get a look, awesome, right? We've got a couple setups that we're willing to trade, but I'm unwilling to trade a compromise. I'm gonna be super stubborn because I know that's what makes me money. Oh, maybe meta was the play here, but this was not A+, right? I need this volume to be bigger. So I could take this, right? But it would have been maybe a B- setup, right? So compromise. That's fine, but compromises don't pay long term. We're not missing out on anything here yet. As frustrating as that may be. And on the bright side, right? At least when we check our social medias here today, the one of the most notorious or biggest paper traders probably ain't gonna be posting his P&L for a while, as he's dealing with texting 17-year-olds. A fucking creep. I never worked as a hedge fund manager, Ravi. And the myth of hedge fund traders trapping retail is bullshit. Oh, Keanu trades, Jason. I'm surprised you didn't see. He got arrested for texting some pretty inappropriate stuff to some of his students. Ravi, like volume that you trade as a retail trader wouldn't even cover 1/10 of the commissions that a hedge fund pays every single day. So they're not playing against you, right? They don't care about your volume. They don't care about your flow. They really don't give a shit. So don't fall for that. Don't fall for that narrative. It's just fear mongering when people say that. Right? What does happen, and this is not what it's not hedge funds doing, right? It's just a natural dynamic of what happens with markets. Let's say you place your stop loss at 89.30 on AMD here. Okay. If 20 other traders have their stop loss in the exact same spot, when your stop loss gets triggered, there's only going to be so much volume on the order book that's actually available to fill at that price. And so it's going to hit that number. And because there's not enough, it's going to keep looking lower and lower to try to get you out at whatever price. So it's just that your price is no longer competitive. And when that competition kind of dries up, right, the ability to get a good fill dries up as well. So it's not just a little bit of bad luck. It's a little bit of whatever. But it's just your price is no longer a competitive price. And so that's why you get a good fill. It's not that someone was chasing your stop loss or anything along those lines, but you know, if something's dumping, there's not going to be unlimited amount of buyers that are wanting to defend an area, right? There's going to be a select few or a number of participants that want to. And when it's a big sell-off, right, then they can kind of be more competitive about what price they choose. And so that's generally what happens in that context. Okay, feels good to have avoided this. And Nvidia is probably my favorite psychopath. Okay, nice to see this, for lack of a better term. So it's looking like it might be an MA cross day or a slightly later setup in the morning, but off this opening bell, it's been relatively indecisive price action. So it doesn't feel like I've got too much of an edge chasing this yet. No alerts have even gone off, right? This morning. Do you have any 10 a.m. news data that came out? Nothing crazy. So Apple, right, trying to creep up towards that 174. This could be interesting. But I didn't get a high volume kind of bounce inside this Bollinger Band, right? At least not on a strong enough candle, right? This opening candle arrow pointing down. That tells me more selling pressure than buying pressure, right? Even though that candle's green. That's why there's no, this wasn't a BB play. Right? Didn't see enough relative strength there. So we're waiting, right? Waiting for that perfect look here. No compromises. Da, 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 da. So maybe on this NVIDIA 15 min, we could get a setup. Yeah, not super convinced here. I wouldn't say I've gotten the ideal Bollinger Band reversal looks, right? Where I don't feel like I have any like real reversal candles that started off the moves. That's why it's slowing me down, I would say, a little bit. I'm not going to speak on any tax structures here, Ravi, because that's not fair. I can get in quite a lot of trouble for that. So I would say please speak to your accountant and get a professional's opinion. I refuse to comment on any tax structure stuff. If you're trading a funded account, you're not going to have to deal with that because you're just going to get a 1099 form. And so it won't be that same system. But if you're trading your own personal funds, I refuse to comment. It doesn't even regain too much bullish momentum here to start the day off, right? So I'm being really cautious here. Just waiting, right? Waiting to get a little bit of confirmation of some strength. Not there yet. $181. Let's go. Post earning pop. Nice work. Obviously, I'm not in small cap land, so I'm not going to touch it, but well done. Well done. Apple, right? If I can get a nice little pop above that 174.25, right? That could be interesting. Yeah, hour into the session, guys. Not too much has happened here so far. So I'm pretty patient. I'm not sure if I have a look that I have been able to even be close to take advantage of. Meta was the only thing that really was borderline interesting, but it never gave me the confirmation I was looking for. There's lots of compromises, right? Not strong enough volume to open the day off. And then it's not pulled back higher, right? So I feel like did pretty well avoiding that. Everything else has been one green candle, one red candle, one green candle, one red candle. So not too much going on here, unfortunately, this morning. Which is annoying as heck. Yeah, not a single alert here this morning. So that does it all, right? Had our plans, nothing even came close to wanting to come together. So can't try to force myself into a trade here or trick myself into a trade just because I'm bored. That would be unacceptable. So I'm on hands here in the short term. At least until things look a little bit smoother. VIX 17 spot 81, so that even hasn't moved today. So there's no real reason for me to be aggressive here yet. Annoyingly, really annoying. Tesla maybe now filling that gap, right? So we could be looking for a possible reversal spot here if we can see that volume stepping on a reversal. We're seeing decent selling pressure here so far. Not the bullish momentum I'd be hoping for yet. I want to see exhausted bears and then, you know, bulls obviously step in and kind of defend this thesis. But doesn't seem like that's happening in the short term. Apologies for that. Might be a little bit loud outside today. All right, hopefully that's the end of it. Couple fire engines just blasting through. What was your entry price on Fubo, T-Cron? Yeah, so now we need to see a reversal candle, right? Something that looks like, if I can get this thing to load up, right? Something that looks like 1, 2, 3 on some volume. So, okay, we've had some pretty weak bears. You know, start to push price action a little bit lower, but I need some conviction that, hey, we're actually finding support here, right? This could look a bit like exhaustion volume, but I need now confirmation that bulls have reclaimed control. So got to be a little bit patient here still. But that thesis came out relatively well so far. Now let's just see if we can get an executable signal off of this idea. Just a day that's requiring a lot more patience than I normally like to show. I generally want action within the first, hour of the day. I should be getting a setup, right? First 30 minutes, first 45 minutes. The longer it takes, the less conviction I have that that volume is actually going to step in and defend my idea. All right, so no confirmation here yet. A little inside bar in the moment. But no bear thesis here either, right, to the downside. A bigger volume than what we saw yesterday, so maybe could be in play. But VIX is not really giving me that indication that I should be easily bearish. So Tesla might just keep flushing here. It even brings down everything else with it. If Apple starts to break, right, off of these highs, maybe there's that look. But indexes aren't really budging too much either. They've been stuck at like this 411, 412 barrier. Okay, Q, little fake out lower, right? Meta, it seems to be moving. Any questions about this price action here so far this morning? Why I haven't taken any trades, why I haven't forced any decisions, why I've stayed away. Why I've not maybe chased Tesla, maybe why I haven't chased AMD, whatever it is. Yeah, those are good assessments. Not been a very nice morning here. I just wish it would either flush or it would pump, but this like kind of bullshit in between is the most frustrating. Oh, and I spent so much work this weekend. Just wanted to trade today so bad. Yeah, I don't know if it's going to go up. I don't know if it's going to go down. I still don't know if the VIX is enough for it to flush, but doesn't feel like a very high conviction day so far. Happy to have avoided any trades. Probably saved myself some cash here today. Annoying though, real fucking annoying. Not enough volume here yet. Better, right? But pass on the burden of confirmation to a longer time frame. Not enough volume though. Oh, Okay, can 286 act as support now for Nvidia? That'd be nice. All right, that's new high a day. Still not super convinced here yet. Good volume on that 15 min there. But I now need to see high a day, break, close, and hold, increasing outlier volume preferably. Borderline squeeze mode here. God damn. Yeah, it's good volume. Really good volume. You get that little MA cross setup going here. I'm almost 11. Oh, you know how slow things have moved today, though, up until now. The last Monday we had a trade. Big one, but it was right at the open, right? So does seem like when these low VIX environments, though, if you don't get a look early, man, you're mercy of the gods, market gods, to get it traded later. So this is an MA cross setup, right? You're looking to buy the first red candle after a MA cross. Ignore the BBs. Right, that's what that blue is telling you. All right, so nice breakout on that candle for sure. Really nice breakout on that candle. Stop loss have to be like that 285.50 area, so pretty decent size stop loss as is. No, we're gonna wait for a pullback, right? We're gonna wait for a pullback. Jared, the buy the close is only on the Bollinger Band setup. You want to see how this candle closes as well, right? No. Got some Fed speak, but no data drops. Data drops tend to not happen at 11. I almost want to wait for this 10-min close here, right? At 11. You're going to get quite a reaction at that time. Yeah, no worries, Matthew. No worries. You can always check the Market Watch economic calendar too, right? And this is what I'm relying on. So if I don't see it in here, then I'm probably going to miss it. I don't like these inconsistent narratives. Main thing that's slowing me down just a little bit. Stories don't feel super consistent. All right, so stop loss have to be 284.70 zone, that kind of area. Profit target here probably be 288.50. Right, that breakout zone that we were looking at here this morning. So to get 2-to-1 risk reward, right, as is, you're risking $2 to make $2, right? So not appropriate. We need to get a decent pullback here to justify it. The close here is going to be telling. You want to see a weak close on kind of decreasing volume. We're definitely going to get that decreasing volume. But I don't know if I'm going to get the risk reward requirement to make this trade work, because I need a pretty big pullback. It's going to make me a little bit nervous. And the really aggressive stop loss would be here. But if I get stopped out here, I don't know if my idea is being invalidated, right? I could fake out basically through that lower low and still have a bullish thesis. Which is why that isn't perfect. It's the highest risk stop, right? Here it goes. Classic. I think it's just one of those days where I'm probably a little bit cursed here. Seems like maybe Nvidia's getting a bit stuck at 287. What are you seeing here, Fernando? Yeah. I hate trading these one mins though. The signal noise you're looking at is really high, right? You're gonna get a ton of variance on if this holds, on is this actually good context here. So all things considered, right? We're still inside barring. We're still kind of consolidation mode here on Nvidia. So it's hard for me to be hyper aggressive, right? And if my signal is a 10-min signal, right? Then I gotta have the risk reward. I gotta set things up on the 10. I can't do then multi time frame analysis. Yeah, I'm not sure if I agree with that, but it's not like there's a one time frame or one structure that works better than others. It's whatever catches your eye, right? So if you feel like you catch moves better on the 1-min, then trade the 1-min. That's totally reasonable. Right? Because for every 1-min full flag breakout that happens here, you get the same amount that breaks down, maybe even more of them that break down. Right? Like, oh, okay, here's a bull flag. Right? You could have made the same argument. Right? So it's easy to want to like trick ourselves and to bounce around between ideas, but if you're doing one thing on the 10-min time frame, then do everything on the 10-min time frame. Don't confuse yourself. Yeah, I don't think I've missed out on anything here, guys. Like, this for me has not been very friendly price action, right? Indexes haven't really moved, right? Inside bar across a lot of names here. So we're not being told trending price action. So there's no reason to be hyper aggressive. And we're now outside of the kill zone, right? Or at least my normal kill zone. Or if I don't get action first 90 minutes of the day, generally signal that I'm probably not going to get strong price action rest of the day, especially when VIX is hanging out where it is. So I'm pretty happy to be patient here. I don't think I'm going to get a high conviction look that I feel like I need to take advantage of or I need to trade. I mean, maybe had that BB setup here on Nvidia. This just wasn't enough volume to start the day off. So a lot of B plus setups that would have paid out here today. None A plus that I was happy to take. So I'm okay that I didn't force anything. No, Jason, VIX is sub 20, so no afternoon stream. Sounds good, man. We'll see you then. Have a good afternoon. This thing's a psycho. The only thing that's kind of like maybe catching my eye here is that Tesla reversal, right? But the volume is just consistently decreasing. I'm not getting, again, right? So like I'm selling myself another compromise here. But the reason why I like Tesla versus maybe some of these other names is it's at least like I'm not chasing a breakout. I'm not chasing extended price action. Right, it's like kind of found maybe a bit of a base at the bottom here and has maybe some room higher. Even then, right? It doesn't feel like it's super sustaining. But Nvidia, look at this volume. Holy gee. 15 min, all 3 bars increasing. Pretty impressive. Okay, so Nvidia now may be rejecting a bit. Yeah, guys, I feel like I'm only seeing compromises, so I don't think I'll be placing any trades. you guys, any questions here about this morning's price action? I don't think I'll be sticking around and watching for too much longer here. It's not worth the stress. All right, final call for questions here. Otherwise, I'm going to kill the stream. All right, sounds good, guys. Hope you all have yourselves a fantastic rest of the afternoon. Got a busy day with one-on-ones. So looking forward to those calls. If you guys have any questions, obviously hit me up outside of market hours. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Otherwise, if you want to book a one-on-one call, yeah, book a time for this week. And yeah, we'll jump on that. But otherwise, not too much for me to do here today. Not going to chase any of this price action when it's not giving me that perfect look. So I'm just going to protect my mental capital. And yeah, I'll be back at it again here tomorrow morning, 8:50 for that next pre-market prep. Hopefully we can get a nice strong look then. So talk to you guys all in a little bit. Peace.